My friend Bharat Naik, who's a leader in the Hindu community in the greater Portland area. And we've known each other for many years. You've been a guest speaker in my world religions class going back to, I think, 2000 or so, something along those lines.
Right, yeah.
And just always am delighted to have the opportunity to interact with you. And today we're actually in Mr. Naik's house. He and his dear wife have been very gracious hosts to us and very hospitable. And maybe you could say just something about how, while there's the Hindu temple, the home can also serve as a temple. And you, as a trustee of the temple and as a Hindu leader, will go out to different homes and serve the community. Would you mind speaking to that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. First, Namaste. And Dr. Derek, Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste means I greet you or I bow down to you from the divinity within you, from the divinity within me. So this is how we greet in India. This is a prayer pose, but I'm very happy to have you in. It's an honor, but I do it as a fun. This is, so I have, nothing I'm trying to make a point, it's a dialogue that we want to have, and the purpose of the dialogue is to, have understanding of each other's, traditions and the faith. Actually after 9/11, all school, all colleges, all over the US, this world religion class is a required class, and that's the reason that we want to have understanding, with all our neighbors, internationally, and have that understanding, so we don't spend billions and billions of dollars investing, in defense. So anyway, so welcome to our home, and so in Hindu traditions. Not only person would go to church or temple, but they would have a shrine in their home, rich or poor. If the poor is at just one room, he would have one corner there where he have a picture of God, and he would offer prayer or incense or something like that, depending on. But if the person is rich, they would have meditation room, or they call it Puja Room. Puja means worship, and that's what. That is a very common if you visit India or any Indian's home.
And here is the shrine, and this home. We'll try and have a picture inserted into the presentation where it'll show this home very festive with for the ceremony.
Yes. Okay.
So, but this is the shrine here?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So though everything you see in my house, all the wood carvings as well as the brass carvings is made by my father, and he made not just for the Hinduism, he made from all religion, and maybe I will explain about other faith, including Christianity, Islam, etc.
Was he a wood carver by trade?
No, my father was a textile engineer. But it's really amazing. If anybody would study his life, when he was about 50, he wanted to build his own home. So he started thinking of what kind of home he would like, and so he was always good with the art. But he started just doing all this work, just like that. It's so
it's amazing.
Yeah, so you have to scratch your head and say, man, there has to be something, karma, reincarnation, there is something. It makes you wonder. In other words.
Right. Well, it's amazing artwork. So, so thank you. And so the questions that we have are questions that we're asking various traditions leaders. And for you, of course, I know that it will really set forth your own personal, existential passion for your Hindu tradition. So what is it about your Hindu faith that is most compelling to you, Prof?
Yeah. For me and for anyone in Hindu traditions, it's like a do-it-yourself project. There's a scripture, there's this, there's that. Everything is there like any other religion. But the emphasis on that, like Christ had said, that the kingdom of God is within you. Or Christ has said that I and my Father in heaven are one. Hindu takes that literally. And through the history of India, India has produced gazillions of enlightened beings. India is called a land of gurus. If anyone is searching, they would go to India. In that sense, it has a rich tradition.
And you have talked about that before between open source and closed source, and then you went into software and technology, and you're an engineer by trade, like your father. So could you unpack that do-it-yourself from open source, closed source?
Yeah, so I use the analogy of computer because that's what most of the people can associate with. And in that analogy, the point is that it gives you the Hindu traditions. Buddhism does it to some extent also, but I can only speak for Hinduism, is that it gives you the taste of the truth. It's hands-on thing, means you can experience that. And so there is a difference between knowledge. One can do PhD versus one has that inner experience. And so Hinduism is considered as a mystical religion. As far as the computer analogy, open source and closed source. In the computers, the programming codes are called codes. The programming codes, Apple's or Windows, for example, they don't share with anyone. They keep it, to themselves. It's even Bill Gates won't give it to his mother. There's a command, son, give me. I said, no, I cannot give you. Of course, I'm kidding, but the point is, so that's the closed source programs. And there is an open source. If you know the programming, you can go on a Google, and it's called Linux, and you can program whatever you like to program. So how does this applies in religion? I would say the Judeo-Christian religions, I classify them as a closed source. And Eastern religion, Hinduism, Buddhism, they are open source. In other words, why Christianity is, for example, I say closed source, is because only the priest, only the qualified person can speak for church. And throughout the history of world and about the US, is that people have been killed. Actually, PBS has a 5-part series which is also on Amazon called God in America. It's a really amazing documentary how the freedom of worship evolved in the US. Whereas in Hinduism, open source being the basic is that the God is within you. Everything is within you, and you just go backward. In other words, learn meditations, yoga, etc., and make your own search. So in that sense, it's a do-it-yourself project. And so the Hinduism, in that sense, is a very open religion. Nobody will tell you this is the only way, for example.
And I remember in an article that you recommended to my class from the Huffington Post, where someone who's a leader in Hinduism said that something to the effect of, in the Bible, you have the story of God appearing to Moses, where God says, I am who I am. He said in Hinduism, it really is more a matter of who am I? So that it's always an open question, not a closed answer, already finished answer, and that we get to participate in supplying the answer is what I hear you saying. And so that's what's most compelling to you, because you're seen as a participant in the discovery of God, and it's from within. Would that be correct?
Right, and as one progresses in meditation, I call it, you get a free sample. Like you go to Costco and they give you a free sample. So you go, okay, this is a good chocolate. I'm going to buy, one dozen or something.
You really should have gone into marketing.
It gives you the taste. In other words, that chocolate sample gives you the taste. And once you get taste, you are hooked.
Yeah.
And this is the same way you get taste of God, you know. And actually, there is no God as a person. In Hinduism, we call it Nam Swarup, name and form. You know, so there is a Krishna, Shiva, Ram, etc. But it's just the name. You start from where you are, but God is beyond name. So God is not a person. Actually, who is God is a wrong question. What is God? You know, and that includes everything. There is a difference in that sense.
I find your language so fascinating. Like I said, you could be a marketer. You're an engineer by trade. You're a Hindu leader. You talked about your father being someone who became a gifted woodsman, so to speak, with the craft. But I also think just with, you know, do it yourself. What was the other one that you had mentioned? Free sample, and you really have the language. I could learn a few things from you on how to communicate. So.
Well, you know, let me tell you another point. It's a, you know, we are of course joking and making a point. For example, you know, in the Judeo-Christian religion, you cannot make fun of God. You know, if I tell you a joke about Jesus Christ, you won't like it, and you probably won't talk to me. However, in Hinduism, it's completely opposite. Not only we make fun of our jokes, we have all kinds of jokes about gods and goddesses, but actually in the wedding time, there are songs, that kind of, so it's like, we are friends, so I can tell you however I feel. It's the same thing in the relationship with the God, I can tell anything. So, for example, in wedding songs, they tell God, in that negative way, that, hey, you take care of this, of my son or daughter, otherwise, I'm not going to give you a coconut or, a couple of dollars in donation. So that tells you the contrast of how the humor and fun can be used.
Interesting, very interesting. So, what would you say, Bharat, is the essence of the Hindu tradition?
The essence is kind of answer the first question about the taste, and so, there are hands-on technique, but the basic foundations is there are three things. Many people would say karma and reincarnations, but I would put dharma, and with your wrong pronunciation, you would say dharma. That's a, you didn't know you had a, problem in pronouncing, but anyway, it's a dharma. So dharma is a cosmic law. This whole universe, this whole existence is based on that law. How we breathe, how we live, how the trees, animal, everything in this universe is works, based on a principle, based on dharma, or it's translated as a law. And so dharma is a is that's how people live. And the name of Hinduism religion is not a Hinduism. That name was given by foreigners. The name of the Hinduism is called Sanatana Dharma. And Sanatan means eternal, and Dharma is what I just explained. And so it translated as a religion.
But it's eternal law, would it be?
Yeah.
That's what
so,
it really means.
So eternal law in sense, like if you are old enough, you would know Walter Cronkite, and he used to say, "That's the way it is."
I grew up when he was there on the news, so I go way back.
Exactly. So when Walter Cronkite said, "That's the way it is," that equals dharma.
Yeah, it wasn't fake news back then.
Right. But you follow what I'm saying? That's the way it is. That's life. Such is the life.
So, and would we say that's associated with karma?
Yeah.
That's the way it is?
Yeah. So, as you go deeper, there is a karma and reincarnations. You have taken, gazillions of life. What you are comes from the past. For example, you do something today which would have effect on the tomorrow. Similarly, you have taken many lifetimes, and what you are today is based on your past, things you have done.
It's bound up with the eternal law.
Right.
Yeah. And so that would be the essence of the Hindu tradition, that eternal law, the dharma.
Right, right. And then karma and reincarnation. So, as we take this many life, but it's like this. The drop of the water comes from the ocean, and eventually that water would go back to the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, these souls or beings, would through these many incarnations would reach moksha.
Which is enlightenment, right?
Right, which is enlightenment, right, yeah.
And that's the uniting. Moksha would be the uniting of, would you say, the Brahman and the Atman, of the eternal soul
Right.
with our individual soul? That it's, again, we are in harmony with this eternal law. Would that be true?
Right, yeah, but there's a little clarifications in being, we say being, we say Atma. It's a Sanskrit word for oneself. But that's not really what it is, You and I may appear as a different, but in reality we are not.
Right.
You know.
And so it's that.
So in essence we are the same in that sense.
Yeah, we're already one with the Brahman, the universal soul, or the whole of reality, spiritual reality, but we often aren't aware of it. Correct?
Right, yeah, right. So because of our ignorance,
right.
That
so would it be the case then when you say the essence of the Hindu tradition is this eternal law, the Dharma, and I don't know if I pronounce it closely.
No, you're doing excellent, yeah.
That emphasis there, it's really about that we would become aware of that eternal law and our oneness with it, and our problems in this world are bound up with our ignorance and living out of harmony with that eternal law. Would that be correct?
Yes, yeah, that's very well put.
Okay, and so your work as a teacher, in many respects, is to help people get in touch with themselves, to find out that ultimately within them is that connection. It's already there with this ultimate reality, which is all, and that it's just our ignorance that stands in the way.
Right, yeah. So in other words, Hindu would say that this is a dream. This whole existence is just a dream. Hindu calls it Leela. Leela means play. This is just a play, here you come, as a teacher, and here I come, even higher than that's just all bogus thing, really, In essence, we are all, one in that sense.
Yeah, so that makes sense to me, so thank you.
Yeah.
Bharat, how would you explain the Hindu tradition to a seeker?
Well, as we talk about dharma, karma, reincarnations, but there is another two things I would say, which is God, and we did touch that not who is God, but what is God. And second part is meditation, which is a search within you. It's not that you have to bring something from outside. Everything is within you, and you make that inner journey. And in meditation, let me explain a little bit. Which is actually meditation is the wrong translation. The word in Sanskrit is called dhyan. Dhyan means simply you are aware, like being mindful. And so when I say to someone I'm meditating, so the next question they ask, what do you meditate on, is because of the translation. When the Buddhism went to China and Japan, they did not use the word from their language. They used the Chinese word or the Japanese word. But so meditation is not something you meditate on. Meditation is not a concentration. Even the many good-hearted meditator, they think I have to concentrate on a God. No, it's not a concentration. If you concentrate, you will get a headache. So please don't concentrate. And also, meditation, many people would say it's a contemplation, like contemplation of God or whatever. No, it's not a contemplation either. Meditation, the way I would say is, I am in the meditation. I am being aware. In other words, I'm moving my hand, so I can move my hand as an example, like being not aware, or I move my hand with the awareness that I'm moving my hand. So there is an awareness, there is a mindfulness, and that's what the meditation is. In meditation, you just simply watch. You watch half an hour or whatever, you meditate, and you watch your life. So I'm aware of whatever is going on in life. So I'm separate in that sense. So whatever you can observe is different from you. And as you progress, then what is observed and observer becomes one. For example, the wind is blowing. So wind is blowing and you are standing, say, at the beach, but you can feel the wind is going through your body. You can actually feel it. It's really smooth. You can go near the tree and you can feel it. You can feel the tree. So that's and again, as you progress, the so-called godly experiences come, and many people get carried away in those experiences. But the way I say, they are just like a signpost. You are going from Portland to Seattle, means you get a sign that says, I'm going north. And you say, yes, I want to go north. That's all it means. It's just a signpost that you are going in the right direction. That's all.
And so this emphasis on meditation, not meditating on something or someone, but simply meditating, is really in many respects a self-awareness, right? You become one with that process of meditation. It's more of a process than it is with a goal in mind to consider that over there. It's not that at all. It's the meditating process is the end, so to speak. Would that be correct?
Right, yeah. So in other words, so as you become aware, so people will say, oh, I get horrible thoughts or whatever, but they are missing the point. You just watch, don't put any label on those thoughts. So you are just simply watching like you are watching a movie. And then as you progress, it can happen even in a few months that you will be able to see that this body is, I'm not this body. You can actually see yourself separate. So that comes first. Then the thought comes that you can actually watch your thought. Then you go deep. It comes from the feelings. You can even watch those feelings. So you can go into deeper and deeper within you, and there is a process of how you go about doing it.
Fascinating. So this is what you would explain to a seeker. It's not that you're focusing on or meditating on someone or something, but just become aware of whatever it is that's passing before you as you think, but not to latch onto it.
Right, yeah. And what happens is, I will give you my own example. I have seen it that, I'm meditating, I'm talking about, 40 years ago, that, I would think about my work, and then all of a sudden the idea comes, maybe I should do this. And you go and do it, and bingo. Boss says, here, Bharat, I gave you $20,000 bonus, and you can go home for the day. Now, I'm just joking, but, in other words, there's a lot of research done on meditation, but exactly what happens, in my own experience also, is that there are billions of neurons in our brain, and they get more activated. And that's the process that, you hear about people saying, I can do this or that, or just because I meditate.
So interesting. Bharat, how would you encourage people to find out more about the Hindu tradition?
Why? I'm a lazy person. No, I'm just kidding, of course. But really, it's not in the Hindu traditions. So it's like this. It's like when the rose flower blooms. The bees comes on its own. Bees. I mean, the rose flower don't get on a website and say, okay, Craigslist, I have bloomed, all the bees come and get it. No, they just come by themselves. So this godly business, and it's not in Hinduism about conversion, is for this reason, is that you don't need to. As something happens, you can call it love, whatever word you use it, people just comes to you. And so if I feel they are sincere, then I might say, whatever, to guide them, help them. And the beauty, is that they learn from their own experience. For example, many years ago when I started in my journey and learned meditation, etc., thinking back now, 40 years ago, my guru never explained me anything. He just says, Bharat, do this. And I was also a perfect student. I never asked why. Really, he never explained, and I never asked. It's not in my nature. I don't like to use my brain. I do it very minimum. I had to do it, okay? And it just comes to me. But the point is, when that experience came, I knew exactly what the karma means, or whatever.
So it is very experiential, and there is a mental component, correct?
Yeah,
I think you have said before it's a deeper mental processing that's not rational. It's beyond rationality. It's a deeper reason that's more experiential. And we don't have the word for that really in English, I think.
Well, the way I would say it is there is a knowledge. You can read scriptures and you can have a knowledge about God. That's well and good, but that's just the knowledge. Mm-hmm. And I don't like knowledge because knowledge, I have to use my brain and that gives me headache again. So the emphasis on knowing, which is here. Knowledge is in the head. Knowing, say, I love you, or whatever that feeling is, I don't have to tell you that, hey, Paul, my brother, I love you. Yeah, well, if I have to tell you, it means there is a problem. I hear in America, when I came from India, they say, honey, I love you. I said, what is this? Yeah, honey doesn't know you love you, means there is a problem. That's why you have to say. You follow? So there is an inner language. That's what I'm trying to, say.
Right, and so the scriptures, the Hindu scriptures, they're certainly important. The temple is certainly important. The teachers, guru, etc., certainly important, but they're not as such indispensable, correct? Because ultimately it's an experience that's not mediated through those means of teacher, scripture, temple. They're important, they help you on the path, but ultimately the answer was already there within you.
Right. So I would say the scriptures are in all religion, but what is people miss is they take it literally, and regardless of any scripture, it's just a finger pointing to the moon. Scripture is where not the divinity or God is. God is in the moon. Scripture is just the finger. So people get stuck in the finger and forget about the moon.
Wouldn't you say too that even figures, whether it's Christ or Buddha, Krishna, that those are fingers pointing at the moon too? Because it's not ultimately a person, you said.
Right.
It's not a who, it's a what. And even the gods of Hinduism, they're just manifestations of the what. They're not like these eternal persons, correct?
Right. So I would say, all enlightened being, you can say in this analogy of moon is they reflect the moon. So like you go to the lake, you will see the moon. So that God as a moon is reflected, and you can see, say, in your hand.
Right.
And so that's how I would say.
Right. But the gods themselves are simply manifestations of this deeper reality.
Right. Yeah. So like Christian would say that the Christ was God or incarnation of God. In Hindu traditions, there are 9 incarnations of God have taken place, and the 10th incarnation is called Kalki, is going to come, and only God knows when he's going to come. No, I'm just kidding. But these 9 incarnations are Krishna. He was born 5,000 years ago. Ram, he was born 10,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, there are other incarnations of God over thousands of years.
Mm-hmm. And gods or incarnations of God are necessary whenever humanity has come to a point where evil has increased to such a level that God has to, in a sense, come and intervene and
Right.
put things back on track. Would that be correct?
Yes, yeah, there is a verse in the Gita that when, I'm paraphrasing, but whenever there is a need, I would come, and the way it's said is not that I'm going to fix you, the emphasis on himself, that you would see me, how nice I am, and you will follow my example.
Mm-hmm.
So the connotations is different, but yeah, whenever there is a need, God incarnates.
That's interesting. Prat, what are some of the sacred rituals, the symbols, scriptures, texts, and traditions that make up the Hindu faith?
As far as the rituals, it's called puja. And at the beginning of our talk, I mentioned that people would worship in their own home. So puja means it refers to flower, pushpa. In Sanskrit, it's called pushpa, which is flower, which represents pure love that one has for the god. And it's a ritual where the mantras are chanted, so that's the ritual aspects where one can go to the temple or do in their home. And like any traditions, there are mythological stories, and in mythological stories, it's a representative. Means it's telling you something in the story format, because in the ancient time people didn't have much education, so the stories were the ways, as you well know, in Bible there are many stories, so there is a deeper meaning. But in my opinion, unfortunately, most of the Christians would read those stories literally and misses the deeper spiritual meaning. But regardless, there are many stories, and in Hinduism they are called Puranas. Puranas, they have done very unique way, which is they have combined the actual history of the India, and they have combined the mythological stories. So, that's how they get the message across. The so-called official scriptures of Hindu is Vedas. So there are 4 books, so it's called Vedas. Now the unique aspects of Vedas is not only talks about God, but it talks about everything, so-called material and spiritual. In other words, it has the mathematics, it has the science, it has how to take care of health, it has astrology, all these other sciences are part of the Vedas. And what it says, they are called 4 Mahavakya. Maha means great, and Vakya means sentences. So these 4 sentences kind of tells you in essence what the Vedas is trying to tell you. So the one is Aham Brahmasmi, means I am Brahma. Tattvam Asi, I am that. Pragnam Brahma. Pragnam means consciousness. In that way, there are many other just the sayings that people have take and kind of essence into that teaching. The nobody reads the whole of Vedas. Even I have not read. It's just so complex. It's like 200,000 stanzas, and the Hindu scriptures. All these scriptures are written as a poetry. So in the poetry you can tell more thing. And the other thing about poetry is like a Quran. People chant these Vedas. People chant the stories of God because they are in the poetry.
So the poetry with the chants, people can remember. Same thing with stories. They remember better than some kind of scientific statement.
Right.
And that also is helpful for conveying the Hindu tradition to each generation, correct?
Right, yeah.
What's it like being a Hindu in the United States? You were raised in India, but you've been here for many, many years.
Right.
You finished as an engineer at PGE, correct?
Right.
And so, the Portland area has been your home for a long time. What's it like being a Hindu in American society and in Portland?
It's not different in reality. I used to feel when I go to India, in the beginning when I came 40 years ago, that this is India. And when I come back to America, I used to feel, this is America. But I would say over 20 years, I don't feel the same. It's like my subconscious. I used to dream when I came from India, half would be in India and half would be America. So my dreams were all mixed. Not now, for many years, but I would say, in a way, now there are so many Indians in the United States, so I don't feel any different. So yeah, in the beginning, like any immigrant, you go through transitions, but so to me, America is a great country as long as you have the money. If you don't have the money, good luck next time. Better luck next time. No, of course I'm kidding, but there are a lot of pluses that many people don't realize. Is if you are a sincere seeker of God, I would say America is a great place because you can have all the material things and you can have all the spiritual things. In other words, one can meditate. In India, because of the large populations and all kinds of pollutions, you have to go out in the country, and there are places where people go to meditate, and so I don't see any difference.
You don't find that being a religious minority poses problems? It's not like you have a Hindu temple on every block.
Yeah.
Is that a problem with neighbors generally? Not I don't mean your neighbors here.
Right. Yeah.
It's the neighborhood of the community at large, of the temple.
In general, what happens, actually when I was working as an engineer, or even now, I can tell anyone anything. I'm not a shy, introverted person anyway, but I can get away saying whatever I can is because if I say something to you or you, I mean it. It comes from my heart. I don't have any malice intention. So as long as you come from your heart, you'll be always right. You don't have to think, about it. And people would actually appreciate that more because it comes from your heart.
Kind of interactions have you had with evangelical Christians, which is my tribe, and what recommendations would you have for us on how we might engage better?
Well, I don't know. I lived in Tennessee for 7 years. So believe me, I have seen it all. In Tennessee, I love Tennessee, so don't get mad at me. But in Tennessee, let's just say we are two friends, and I have seen it my own, at work or with friends. I would try to convince you that you should come to my church, and then you would try to convince me that I should come to your church. So there is that kind of mindset that my way is the way. But as far as what I would say is again I go back to my previous questions. If you come from the heart, it works. As far as if someone is close, I would say, forget about Hinduism or whatever ism, just follow the teachings of Christ, which is all love, which is all caring, giving, sharing, all those wonderful things that he emphasized all his life. The kingdom of God is within you. So that's what I would tell them, to try to see it in that way. And it's like going to Portland Airport. You can go many ways to the airport. For if you say that this is the only way, to go to the airport, no, it won't make sense. I may have a bicycle or I may have a helicopter. So we have different ways to reach airport or reach God. So have little love, have little compassion, and if not, just stay away. Means, if you don't like something, Hindus or whoever, just stay away. You don't need to have friends and share your cake, Yeah, or you can do other things. If you don't like, that's what I do, is just go and give them the cake. So they say, hey, this is a nice guy. He's a Hindu, but he's a good man. No, I'm just kidding, of course, but the bottom line is how you do it is not important. Just operate from the heart. Forgiveness, giving, caring, sharing. There's so many things that Christ inspires everyone, regardless of religion, because of coming from love.
And do you have any closing words for us?
As far as the closing word, all these religions, are like this. They have their own God and whatnot. So it's like this airport example, or it's like, mountain climbing. So you want to go climb Mount Hood or Mount Everest, go to the top. So there are so many ways, hiking trails or, climbing. You can go different way to the top. So all these religions are different ways, So it's not that the one way is the right and the other way is wrong. So that's one point I would encourage people to think in that terms. Now, as far as the Christ or Buddha or Ram or Krishna or Muhammad, they are sitting at the top. So whatever they are saying, they may use different language, they may use different words, in their different times that they were born, but their basic is the essence is the same, which is love. Regardless of any religion, the basic is the love. For example, in Islam, there is a lot of negativity in general in America about Islam, but Islam, the meaning of the word and everything, Muhammad only emphasized love. It's amazing how majority of the people, we don't understand the basic message of Muhammad. And so I'm just using him as an example, but Christ has said the same thing, that love is God and God is love. In Hinduism or any other ism, the basic is the same. Because it's like mathematics or physics or this or that. We don't have a Christian physics, we don't have a Christian mathematics or Hindu mathematics. No, it's just in the religion we tend to divide is because on our ego. The priests have created a business, in my opinion, about their business. And it has become religion has become a business. So my business is better than yours, and that's unfortunately has happened. But we would like to see more people studying each other's faith, And even the medical colleges I go to, even the doctors study world religion is for the same reason, that they have some understanding about person from different faith. And we need more people understanding, forgiving, loving each other, and living in harmony.
Understanding is so important. And you mentioned at the outset 9/11, and
Right.
just how since then religion classes like this have been made required courses in a lot
Right.
of universities and colleges, because there's such a need to understand
Exactly.
and to safeguard against war. And so I always have appreciated your hospitality, your kindness, your thoughtfulness, and open spirit toward us. And I hope I'm not closed source in the relationship, but open always, and returning that with that spirit of hospitality and generosity. So thank you very much.
No, actually, you don't know, but I have a direct contact with the God, and He has already told me that when you go to heaven, you are going to get a penthouse with the view of all the mountains in the world. So you don't need to worry about anything. You are doing a heck of a job.
Well, we have that on tape too, so this is good. This is very good.